Ahoy everyone. Right now I'd like to talk about Ukraine bombing a bunch of bombers with drones. I'll put a link in the description, but recently the Ukrainians have carried out a huge operation. They have actually decided to really bomb a bunch of bombers. They've done a damage to about maybe 40 different aircraft. And I'm going to tell you this. Why is this a big deal? Well, because the Ukrainians, with limited resources, they did an incredible amount of damage to Russia's air defense systems. They did a lot of damage to their planes, and they absolutely took a huge blow to their operational capabilities. There is a dispute for how many planes are actually being destroyed, because that's how it is. One side will say another, and the other side will say the other. So I'm not going to tell you how many planes, because I don't know. But I do have a link in the description with an article if you want to choose to read into it. I suggest you do. So, of course, Trump has responded that Putin is not going to like that. Steve Bannon has attacking the Ukraine for doing it because, well, frankly, they're on Russia's side. But here's the deal. The Ukrainians have pulled something off and have decided to put their big boy pants on. Now, before the war even started, the Ukraine had its issues. It's a very corrupt society, had a lot of micro-corruption. You couldn't really advance in that country without paying off the right people or the wrong people, however you look at it. Cops will harass you just so you could pay them off. I mean, you could talk to them, but they pretty much were just looking for ways to make money off of tourists especially. So there really wasn't a lot of governing going on. It's not really a place that is filled with a lot of people that know what they were doing. Too much corruption was holding the brains down. Now, because of all these issues, pretty much everyone thought that the Russians were just going to run over them, and it turns out that was not the case. So the Ukrainians have been using civilian infrastructure for war and for drones. I'll give you some other examples. They took these things like jet skis, which are just, they're little motorized, little recreational vehicles that we can see usually in the summertime here in Michigan, year-round in some other parts of the country. The Ukrainians used those and attached bombs to them and went after boats successfully. And right now, this attack was just used by civilian drones. They launched about 117 of them at the same time. Now, this is what happened. According to Zelensky, he had planned this. Not him. Him and the Ukrainian military, of course, had been planning this for 18 months. So this wasn't something they just thought of and then 5 days later did. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us a few things. It tells us that Trump did not know about it. The executive branch probably didn't know about it either. But the Biden administration probably did. They were planning this 18 months ago, and if you want to do some math, that was during the Biden administration. Now, it's also possible that he didn't tell them either. But either way, doesn't matter. Because the Ukrainians, who had issues with corruption and micro-corruption, and have a country that's basically ran on bribes, was still able to keep their mouths shut and contain a huge operation against one of their enemies. They pulled it off. It's very impressive that they did that, because I frankly would have never thought they could. There's a lot of loose lips in that country. You slide them a couple bucks and you can get them to talk, but they didn't do it about this. So that was really good to see. They stepped up for their own people, and they did a good job. But I guess it answers that. The other thing is, what about the United States' role in this? It's just kind of showing that the Ukrainians don't need the Americans to support them. They don't need to tell them anything, and they won't. And they don't really need them to actually go to war and defend themselves. They can just rely on their European allies. And they can. But it also tells you something darker, that the United States is not a leader. Because if we were the leaders and we told them to stop doing what they were doing and they kept doing it, that's pretty much the ultimate sign of one side not having respect for the other. And why would they? They just reiterate Russia's talking points. They're reactionary. They're trying to turn the country authoritarian. And they can't even keep a lid on the Ukraine. So it's embarrassing to the Trump administration, and it's good for the United States, and it's bad for Russia. So everything is okay. Here's the other thing. Last, and I'll leave you with this. This war is not going to be over tomorrow. It's not going to be over the next day. There's going to be more things like this coming in, and the Ukraine's going to keep doing what they're doing. They don't have a choice. But you can at least rest your head knowing that even if we decide to elect a stupid person, which we have, it's not going to stop the Ukrainians from doing what they're going to do. The only real reason why the people listened to the United States wasn't because we just had a big stick. They listened to us because we were their leaders. We would step up for them. We were in a position to ask our European allies to do this, that, or the other thing. Or not anymore. So this is pretty much a reflection of the military order that's no longer in power. And this is a reflection of the fact that, well, at least some reactionary government can be taken care of without the United States' support. And it appears, well, at least the Ukraine, that some of Europe is starting to wake up for the fact that they're going to have to actually spend their own money to protect themselves, and we're not going to do it for them. It's kind of grim, but it's progress. So celebrate it. Ukraine is still punching above their weight, and they're still doing a good job, and they're still sticking it to a very deeply reactionary authoritarian government who has basically been our enemy as long as we've had countries. And I'll leave you with that, and that's something to be happy about. Take care.